Well, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are back in the garden and I am super excited. I've got my harvesting baskets and we are going to be harvesting some of our spring crops today. So some of the stuff we're going to be harvesting are our carrots, our kale, our lettuce, Swiss chard, and maybe even some strawberries, who knows. And then I'll be giving you some tips on how to store them and use them in your kitchen, as well as the different varieties that we have planted. So let's jump right in. So first up, we're going to be harvesting our carrots, and we'll see, hopefully these are mature enough. If you remember last season, like around September, October, I had a pretty rough start. And if you missed that video, you can go back and take a look. But I planted the seeds and only 2 of them came up, and then I had to replant them all over again. So these are actually the scarlet carrots, carrot variety, and I've grown these before and they always turn out super sweet. So they're a really good choice for carrots. But I guess timing is everything. So let's go take a look. And so you'll know when they're ready when you can see a little bit of the carrot top pushing through the soil. And you'll want to look for a nice thickness before you pull them. Look at this one. Wow, that's the best one. Good job. Nice.
Two small ones.
I got 3 medium ones. My basket's falling over. What's up? Hold on, let me see. Let me see.
Big chunky finger.
Oh my goodness. That's awesome. Nice. I love it.
So big.
Yay, well, we got ourselves some carrots. I am super excited with this harvest. And so the first thing I'm going to be doing is trimming off the green parts. So the greens will actually continue to suck moisture right out of your carrot. So this is very important that you do that. So just give that a trim. And then we'll be bringing these inside and washing them off really well before we store them. So now to store them, I'm just going to be putting them in a plastic bag or container with a little bit of water. And that'll also help to retain their moisture, and then I'll stick them in the fridge and they'll last in the fridge for weeks. And some of the best ways to eat these, of course, are, raw, which is always good, roasted. But one of my favorite recipes is actually a beer braised beef short rib recipe that is just to die for. So if you guys are interested in me sharing that with you, leave a comment in the section below. Now, next up we have our kale, and this is probably one of my favorite greens, honestly, to grow. I just kind of want to share the best way to harvest this. Now, if you wanted to continue to produce, you are basically going to be starting with the outer, more mature leaves, and you'll give those a little trim and then leave the center part to continue to grow and produce. I have harvested this so many times, and as you can see, it just continues to fill out again and again. Now, it is starting to get to the end of its life cycle because it is starting to bolt a little bit here in the center. And so you'll see that when it starts warming up here in our climate, the plant it kind of gets to the end, and then it will become weaker over time. And if left to fend for itself, it will eventually start to attract pests. So I just kind of want to avoid that whole cycle. So I'll probably be clearing this out, making room for some new stuff to grow here. But Yeah. Now, one thing that I wanted to mention for those of you who have never grown kale is it does actually come in two different sizes. So this is a dwarf variety. And if you look at my videos from last spring, you'll see that I had the full size variety and it was humongous. And so if you're not careful or considerate of where you're putting it, it may just take over a larger space than you may have planned for. So I actually really enjoyed the dwarf variety this year because I felt like it didn't take up as much space, but yet we were still able to get plenty of harvest out of it for our family of 4. And so I would highly recommend this variety. I love kale. It's funny to hear myself say that, and I laugh because before I got into gardening, I'd always think, you hear people who are really health conscious or whatever, and they'd be talking about eating kale, and I'd be like, why? That's so gross. Isn't it bitter? Like, I didn't know what it even really was other than a garnish. And so you can do a lot of stuff with kale, and I've grown to love it so much because you can saute it in a pan with some garlic or blend it up in a smoothie. My favorite way is probably baking it and turning it into kale chips. But yeah, you can throw a little, depending if you want a little spice, do some little red pepper flake or whatever, and garlic. It's just so good. So good. So highly recommend this one. And I'm a little sad that we're getting to the end of the season, but we've been able to enjoy it quite a bit this year. So now that we have our kale harvested, what I'm going to be doing is bringing this inside. We'll give it a good rinse off to rinse off any debris, and then we'll lay it out on the counter on some paper towels to dry completely before storing it in the fridge. And then I'll be putting it in a plastic bag with a paper towel. So don't forget that paper towel. That is actually going to help preserve the freshness a lot longer. So next we are going to be harvesting our butter crunch lettuce. I have really enjoyed this. I will tell you guys, there is nothing better than fresh leaves of lettuce, way better than your store-bought, trust me. But I've really enjoyed this one. This is a good variety. It has grown really well, as you can see. And this is a great lettuce too for the cut and come again method. You could just cut off the outer leaves, continue to produce. We're going to be taking the whole head today. So I'm going to be using a serrated knife, and we are just going to take this and cut it right at the base. Oh, it smells so good. Now we are going to be storing this very similarly to our kale. So we're going to be giving it a good rinse, and then we'll let it air dry on some paper towels, and then I'll stick it in an airtight container that's actually lined with paper towels for maximum freshness. So this is our rainbow Swiss chard. Love the colors on this. I just think they are so beautiful, and they add so much vibrance to our raised garden bed area. Unfortunately, this poor guy is getting eaten by caterpillars or something, and so we'll have to be trimming him back pretty far down, and hopefully that will disrupt that whole cycle of whatever is eating it and get it to come back nice and vibrant. Now, Swiss chard will survive the summer. Doesn't always look pretty, but in the fall time it should also come back nice and vibrant again and last all through the winter. And an even quicker way to do this would be to use your serrated knife to really just cut down the base of each plant. So that is another option as well. And Swiss chard is best stored just like kale and lettuce in a plastic bag with a paper towel to soak up any of the excess moisture. And now to harvest our cabbage. So you'll always know when your cabbage is ready when it's nice and firm to the touch. And this guy is definitely ready. So what you're gonna do is just use a sharp knife and you're gonna cut it right down the base. These are kind of a beast, so make sure your knife is really sharp. And you're gonna cut all the way around it. And then you will be removing any of the loose or damaged leaves here. Whew, I always have the hardest time harvesting these, but oh wait, there it is. Oh, look at that, is gorgeous. Well, I am looking forward to using this in the next few weeks, and you can use this in coleslaws or salads, sauerkraut. Yeah, and we're just gonna be putting it in the fridge. It'll store like that for weeks. And last but not least, our strawberries. So these are ready when they're deep red all over. You just want to gently twist them off to avoid damaging the plant. And it looks like we've got some juicy strawberries ready to be picked. I'm so excited. Yay! This is wonderful. Now, go ahead and pick some of these. I'm going to show you. When you're picking the strawberries, you want to make sure that they're a deep red color all over. Actually, we'll get in kind of closer here so you can see. Not all of these are quite ready, even though I'm seeing some red. Some of them have a little bit more here to go. For instance, this guy here isn't deep red all the way around, so we're going to let him continue to ripen up there a little bit more. But the ones right next to him are totally ready to be picked. And so what you want to do is just take it at the base of the stem, give it a little twist, just gently, or just kind of pick it off like that. And there you have it. And he is a deep red all the way around. That is a perfect strawberry. We'll let this guy continue ripening as well. We've got quite a few of these, so we'll go ahead and get to it. There we go.
This is what I meant.
All right. Now we are going to store our strawberries unwashed in the fridge and only rinse them right before eating. They'll stay fresher that way, trust me. Best to do it in the produce drawers, I guess, you know, and that usually is a good thing to do. Honestly, they don't live in our household very long before they get eaten, so you basically just want to kind of rinse them off in some vinegar, or you can use baking soda, anything to kind of just wash them off really well. And a tip for using them: eat them fresh, toss them into salad, or you can freeze a batch for smoothies and desserts later on. All right, guys, well, that is all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me today in the garden. It was so much fun coming out here and getting to harvest our cabbage and kale and all our goodies. And I really look forward to using these here in the kitchen. So if you like this kind of content, be sure to hit that like button and be sure to subscribe. I hope I'll see you again on the next one. Bye.